Today we're going to be taking a look at the finals. Now, I'm not somebody that usually likes Battle Royale style games, and the finals is very much going for that kind of gameplay. Not entirely, not exactly like Fortnite or Apex or Warzone, but it's definitely going for that gameplay with the 3v3 battles that are somewhat random, where it's very chaotic in a Battle Royale style way, but there's a lot of changes and a lot of things that make it different from the other Battle Royales in the market. So I will say that I am enjoying this game. I'm not sure if it will be my primary shooter. I'm usually more of a pure arcade style shooter. Things like Titanfall 2 or the older Call of Duties, X-Defiant is coming out. That's more up my alley when it comes to pure arcade shooters, whereas this is kind of a hybrid between an arcade shooter, a class shooter, and a BR. It's some sort of tribrid of those three games, which and honestly is working pretty well. So let's start off with the things I like. The number one difference that this game has compared to other Battle Royale style games is that there's no looting phase. There's no spawning into a map or dropping in and you've got your fists or a pistol or whatever garbage you spawn in with, and then you run around and you're doing this boring game of looting crates and or whatever. I never much cared for that in Battle Royales. I found it more to be a chore than anything, especially when it comes to inventory management. If I'm having to, drag and drop in menus, I just don't find that fun. It's never something I've enjoyed. So I like that I like that the finals is a game where you just have infinite ammo and what you have is what you have. You make your class before the game starts and that's what you do. And you have teammates that are playing other classes that are of different archetypes. So you've got heavies and lights and mediums. I like that. I like that much better than it's some weird RNG, boring pre-game phase. Another thing I really enjoy is the classes. I think that the heavy, light, and medium synergize in a way that makes for some very fun gameplay. So much so that it makes me wonder what like an Overwatch Battle Royale would be with how crazily heavily defined those roles are. I think something like that could actually be super fun. Obviously, those heroes would have to change dramatically, but I found myself really enjoying the synergy of the light running around, flanking, causing trouble with glitch grenades and all that sort of stuff, and then the heavy on the complete polar opposite, where he's slow and he's got this big machine gun and tons of destruction and tons of health. And then the medium class, which is what I like to play, where you've got a bunch of utility gadgets, a healing beam, you've got a pretty versatile kit of guns with like AKs, and I really enjoyed the pistol, and I really like that gameplay of, pulling out my pistol, firing a few shots, whipping out the healing beam, throwing, radar grenades, flashbangs, whatever, and enabling my team as a medium. So I found that synergy to be fantastic. And another thing I want to talk about is that I did not play this game with a pre-made group ever. 100% of my experience with this game has been with random players and no voice chat. And I still managed to have a lot of fun coordinating with people that I was not talking to, had no prior experience playing with a bunch of noobs, and myself also being a noob, and I still managed to have fun. So I think that is very important, because I feel like this game will be fantastic to play if you have two other friends and you're actually like taking it seriously, and everybody's sort of maining a class, and you're playing in a very coordinated, intentional way. I think that's going to be fantastic. I think this may genuinely be one of the most fun Battle Royales to play with a group of people, because the team play and the class roles are so defined that I don't know. I don't think anything else can really mess with it. I think it's kind of unique in that regard. Another thing I like is the weapon variety. You have a ton of weapon variety, and from what I could tell, at least in my casual experience, I was not playing the ranked game mode. I'm sure ranked will have its meta, and there will be things that are way better than other things. Like, you might not see anybody use the dagger in ranked, but in casual game modes, I absolutely found that the snipers, the shotguns, the ARs, SMGs, pistols, swords, daggers, sledgehammers, people were using everything, and it seemed like everything was pretty good. Like, it was all decently balanced. Now, if you're playing at the highest rank in, the Bankit game mode in ranked, yeah, maybe the dagger's not going to work, but in the vast majority of contexts, I feel like the weapons are pretty well balanced, and they're also not homogenized. They are dramatically different. You have melee weapons and a sledgehammer that can one-shot a light player, but it's obviously a melee weapon, and I don't know. I found the weapon variety to be very enjoyable. Another thing I really like is that the game looks pretty good. It's got a very clean look. There's not a lot of visual clutter, not a lot of bullshit with like screen shake and crazy muzzle flash. For the most part, it's just a very clean look, and the game runs well. I had no issues with performance. There was some weird like crashing, freezing kind of things that would happen if you alt-tabbed, but for the most part, the game ran very well in terms of frame rate. And I played the game in, I think the highest settings are close at 1440p. Had no issues whatsoever with that. Next thing I like is the theme of the game. The game is a VR kind of shooter. I believe it's set in virtual reality, which means that they can do whatever they want when it comes to the themes, the skins, the maps. They could have a medieval map where there's castles and cannons or whatever, and it would make sense because anything goes with this IP. They're not trapped into being a modern military shooter or a future military shooter. They could have a black powder gun in this game where literally a muzzle loader, and it would make sense because whatever. Like, they can do, no one's gonna bat an eye. They could have crazy cosmetics. They could have a Roman warrior. They could have Master Chief. They could really do anything they want to with this, and I prefer games like that. Next thing I like is the destruction. Now, I'm not a big destruction person. I never much cared for it in Battlefield or really other games. I didn't hate it, but it never was something that really did a lot for me. It was kind of one of those things that got old for me. But I have to admit, in this game, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool how everything is destructible and everything, you can just blow through a wall and use destruction like very tactically. In a lot of games that have destruction, it's kind of just like, oh, if there's somebody in that building, you can just blow it up and they die. Whereas in this game, you can, if somebody's got the vault, you can blow the floor out and knock the vault down. It's a lot more well thought out. The destruction is not something they just sort of tacked on. It's very much a part of the game, and I'm curious to see how people will use that. It's cool. It's cool, and it's not something I usually care about, so kudos to them. And the last thing I like about this game is that the time to kill is right on point. I would not change it. I would not speed it up. I would not slow it down. It gives you just enough time to where if somebody gets the jump on you, you can slide and dodge and potentially turn it around on them, even if they got the jump on you. This is something that's not super common in shooters anymore, which is weird. But most shooters anymore, if somebody gets the drop on you, especially if it's significant, like, you're just dead. A lot of the times it's whoever sees that person first wins, like 75% of the time, which is not great. Whereas in this game, you have a lot of room to wiggle and outplay. But if you're hitting headshots, like if you're being particularly accurate, especially with the precision weapons, like the pistol I'm using in a lot of these clips, you can 3-tap, I think you can 2-tap a light, 3-tap a medium if you hit all headshots. Now, that's not something that you're going to be doing super frequently unless you're a god, but yeah, time to kill, fantastic. You got plenty of time to outplay people, but if you are hitting your shots and you are right on the money with those headshots, you can drop people. Now, on to the things I don't like. The biggest thing I don't like is the primary game mode, which is cash out. I think that game mode probably needs some iteration. It was a little slow in some points. I know that with time, people will play this game mode differently, and I'm sure when you're playing in a coordinated group, it's better, but I found it to just not be as fun as Bank It. Maybe cash out with some iterations will be more fun, but I think that I don't know. I don't think it's too much of a hot take to not love that game mode and to not want it to be tweaked a little bit. I don't know. It is cool that somebody can just steal the cash at the last second, but you also have to, what are the incentives? How are people going to be playing when the incentives are a certain way? Is that genuinely more fun than something like Bank It, where you can go for those high risk plays and you can still steal it from people and you can still fuck people over and still make a big play, but it's not quite as campy and slow, I guess is the right word. Bank It, I just think, is a fantastic game mode. It's got the chaos, it's got the aggression being rewarded, but you can still kill somebody that's got a ton of money and take it and still get somebody in the vault, and there's still that degree of tactical play, but not quite purely waiting until the last second to steal it deal. So I don't know. Maybe with time, this will be a critique that is not as dramatic for me, but we'll see. I expect they'll probably make a few changes to this game mode to incentivize other play styles. And before you say, oh, play it in a full party, that's not really the point. Most people are going to be playing this game by themselves. They're not going to be in a full party with comms. So I'm sure cash out is fantastic in that context. But even then, I feel like some of the incentives there's some perverse incentives that make people play the game in a way that is probably not even the most fun for them. The next thing I don't like in the finals is that movement is not client-based. Every single thing you do gets validated on the server, which means that there's some delay. This causes the movement to be a little bit laggy and slippery. This is particularly noticeable if you're trying to make precise movements, like if you're on a rooftop and you want to, creep over the edge but not quite fall over the edge and shoot down. If you want to make a very precise movement like that, there's a lot of instances where you'll just sort of like lag off the edge. This is not something that is dramatically bad. Normally, if you say movement is bad and laggy in a game, it kind of just kills the game. It's not so bad that it's kills it, but if you're coming from a movement shooter like Titanfall 2 or Apex, where you're able to do very precise movements and it's just snappy, this game is not that. This game is absolutely not precise when it comes to movement. It's very floaty and glidey, but I don't think it hinders the gameplay in any serious way. The reason why the game is like this is because all of the destruction is handled server side. For all of the destruction that can occur in this game, your PC just cannot handle it. So everything is offloaded to the server, but in order for that to happen, everything needs to be validated off the server, including movement. So it's a trade-off. To be able to have this kind of amazing destruction, you have to give up some of that movement. But I don't think it's the worst. I don't love it, but it's okay. Maybe it'll be better in the full release. Honestly, I'm not seeing how it will be unless there's some major like technological breakthroughs. But it is what it is. It's still a fun game. And the last thing I don't like is that there's no kill cams. This is a game that should absolutely have kill cams. This is not an uber tactical game. This is just honestly, it's lazy. I think my inner conspiracy brain thinks that it's just a way to give cheaters plausible deniability. Whereas if somebody aim locks on you and you have kill cams, it's very obvious that they're cheating. And this is a free-to-play game and likely will have cheating issues at launch. It definitely did in the beta. There was just like pure blown like rage hacking in the beta, like in significant amounts. I'm sure that in the full release it won't be that bad, but oh boy, I would like to have kill cams in this game because sometimes you just want to know what happened. And this is not a like Tarkov kind of game where, it's just not. I think they genuinely either just got lazy or they want that plausible deniability because I think in a game like this, I want to see what people do. If I get owned by somebody that like picks up a fire hydrant and puts C4 on it and blows me up, like I want to see how I died spectacularly. I want to see people do cool stuff. To me, I don't mind. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Overall, the finals is a game that I'll probably play casually. It's not going to be something that I'm going to put a ton of time into. I think I'm more in the X-Defiant Titanfall 2 kind of game, that more arcadey, pure arcade shooter. But we'll see. I'll probably still be playing this game. It's free to play. Why not? So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Have a good one.